Welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Power Platform podcast. So, Belinda. So, Belinda and I have been together for a while. She's taught me everything I know. I mean, I spent couple of years with her with Power BI. The Cow app wouldn't be the same without her. Just all kinds of fun stuff. And I used to do Saturday morning Power BI session, which Jill, I've talked to you about. Belinda, I think we should get her hooked up. But one time I was working on Power Platform and I told Belinda, I said, I can't come to Saturday morning because I'm working on Power Platform. She's like, you need a group, right? And I'm like, I do. So Belinda came up with the Weekend Power Platform and then it got started. And Jill and I met she went to Power Platform conference this year. And
Yay.
I know
Yeah, it was my first time.
it was fun. So Jill joined our group and we're super excited. She's just dove in and I mean, doing amazing stuff with Power BI
Thank
and
you.
DAX. And, she's just doing.
I'm just excited that Belinda's here because I was really stoked about meeting her and getting to know her more, especially because I'm like, wow, she's been here since day one with like Power BI and stuff like that. So I've been eager to meet her because I think I'm just gonna, even from this podcast alone, hearing her speak, I expect that I'm gonna gain so much more knowledge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is like dynamic duo here. I mean, really.
Now,
Belinda, I heard a lot about you at the Power Platform Conference 2025, and I was so excited to meet you. And I was so sad you weren't there because I was like, oh man, this would be so cool to be able to meet Belinda in person too. I've been excited to speak with you, especially because you're the Power BI guru. You've seen Power BI since like day one. So
yeah,
I've always been excited to meet you.
it's so sweet. Okay.
Oh,
Are you guys grayed out or no?
Are we what? Okay.
Oh,
I go back in the Wayback Machine, back when Power BI was a piece in SharePoint. So nothing like what it is now.
I know you've probably seen so many changes.
Yep.
yeah. See, I didn't even know that was a part of the beginning with it just simply being a part of SharePoint.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I do know though that was like the very first one introduced on the Power Platform. Just crazy to see how it's evolved.
Yeah. It actually was Excel pieces that you could put on to SharePoint. So yeah, very cool stuff.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
One day I'm going to pull out some of my old sessions that I did practice recordings of where I was showing it and demonstrating how to use it, because it's just like from where we came to where we are is just like, mind blowing.
Yeah, I bet
I
for
would
you,
love to see that.
you've seen a lot of changes.
Yes. And I see him every week. Oh, goodness. I frequently joke as a Microsoft certified trainer, you cannot be a trainer. And this is true of Power Platform as well. You can't be a trainer these days without being comfortable saying, oh, well, that's new or that's been moved, because it's changing every single week. The online pieces, of course, the Power BI desktop, it just has a monthly cadence. I shouldn't say just, but
hmm
compared to every week, it's quite a big difference.
Yeah,
Right. And I
it's
think
interesting.
yeah.
When you think like 3 to 5 years out now, I mean, kind of looking at the past, but thinking about where the future is going, what do you feel will be inevitable about Power BI, AI, how it's changing in the next couple of years?
Oh, gosh, that's such a loaded question. There's a lot of things that I'd like to see occur, but I think obviously AI is one of the biggest changes to it. And I don't think we've seen what's going to end up becoming of that. Right now, the changes and that we're still trying to make is the evolution of what kind of data analysis people are doing now and what they can do with AI. I mean, people are very comfortable with what we call descriptive analytics, which is what has happened in the past. And that's what we're used to seeing, at the end of the month, what were our sales, that's descriptive, that's happened. There are a lot of other categories as well. We get into the diagnostic areas being, like, why did it happen? Now, this is another AI piece as well that a lot of people aren't getting into, but it's something that we need to know. Why did something happen the way that it did? Well, there's prescriptive will happen in the future, and then, or that's predictive actually. And then prescriptive is going to be, what should we do? What should we do if we want the needle to move in this direction or another direction? Now, Microsoft used to talk about cognitive analytics as well. What might happen if we do this? That's that's a little bit more of, what if scenario. But with the introduction of AI, we end up with two additional categories. And the one that people are thinking of in the forefront right now is the real-time analytics, like what's happening right this minute. And this is a really big area in Power BI right now. And typically this is something because of cost structure that is for larger organizations, but there are ways to bring it to mid-market for sure. And I think it's valuable. I know in the space that you're in the most, I know you work with Sean, you work with F&O customers as well. F&O is more enterprise, where Business Central or BC is more SMB market. So if we're talking specifically about that SMB market, there's a lot of manufacturers that fall into that category. So when we're talking about real time, like monitoring what's happening with our machines in the manufacturing floor, is quite the big deal, because we want to be able to predict when a machine is going to fail and what the failure will be, so that we can do repairs on it before it breaks, which would significantly reduce downtime, which would be a significant reduction in cost, right? The
You
cost.
kind of get that proactive, fixing things up front versus, like you said, waiting and then you're down, you can't produce, you're trying to move stuff along the lines and making changes. That part is, for me, is pretty exciting because I've spent a lot of years in warehouse manufacturing, and anything is possible, anything can happen in a day, and you're always trying to like predict what's going to happen so you can counteract it or still be able to produce, ship, view your data.
Yep. And it's interesting because, it's no different than your car. If you go in and get an oil change in your car for preventative maintenance, you're like, oh, okay, I'll wait in the waiting room. I got my phone. No problem. I could just sit and play or read messages or whatever I want to do. Where if, you know, something devastating happens to your motor, or, fan brakes, you're not going to sit there and wait for that. That's going to be hours at best, probably a couple of days. And so machine from manufacturing, no different at all. So being able to track that. And then there's also this other area, which we're trying to get to, and BI does a much better job than anything that we've had in its as its predecessor. Is like, what don't we know? I don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So how do I find out what I don't know? And this is
Mm,
quite a big deal as well. So it does this by looking for patterns that we are not fully aware of. So this is quite the big deal. I tell the story a lot. Oh, this goes back into the mid 90s. I was working I was building reports using Crystal Reports, which was the preferred report builder back then.
I remember it. I
Yeah.
think it was my first.
So I was building reports with Crystal Report, and it was a factory that I was working in, and the owner said, I want this sales report with these 5 customers. And I asked, why these 5? And the answer was, those are my top 5 customers. Well, Crystal had just got the feature top in, and I'm like, we'll see about that. And so I put in top in, and he had 5 of the top 6. Someone had snuck in. Now, it wasn't, I was impressed with his knowledge with that, right? But it turned out the customer that snuck in was someone who bought mistakes, seconds. And that immediately told him, wait, we have a manufacturing problem and we have a marketing opportunity. What if we make the product with a little with less costs involved and sell it instead of it just always being seconds. So it not only presented them with the opportunity to fix something that could have become significantly worse, but it opened up an opportunity for more revenue at better profits because they're no longer the cost of what was going in that was a mistake. So it was kind of interesting seeing that. And it was all because I was cocky. And I'm like, oh, we'll see about that. Yeah. And so I still am. I'm still like, are you sure? Why? I'm like the perpetual 3-year-old. Yeah.
Jill, what are some of the things that you're kind of most excited about and what since you're, I don't know, pretty fresh to Power BI and reporting and analytics and AI, what are you most excited about and working on?
Gosh, well, I think I should start off by emphasizing or explaining that when I jumped into this world of Power BI and data analytics, I started at the technical perspective, programming aspect of data warehousing, data architecture, all those things. I came from a SQL background before I even touched Power BI. I was playing with some SQL. And a part of how I'm trying to advance my studies with it now is focusing on a lot of business related courses, operations management, accounting is now a specialization in my degree program because I want to be able to speak both the business and the technical aspect, combine them. When you're in that intersection, it's such a powerful combo. But being newer into this stuff, the nice thing is I don't have to unlearn old habits. I'm on top of like the modern ones that are to come. But, that is still a challenge with how fast things are changing at a rapid pace. I think regarding AI, the best results I've gotten so far are usually basic DAX measures. It seems that for me, in my experience, AI is a struggle when it comes to the data modeling process plus the visualization process. You know what I mean? I'll ask AI to assist me with some visualizations, and then all of a sudden I get like 5 KPI cards on the top or three, charts with really heavy data in it and things like that. And then on top of that, geography map. I think what AI doesn't understand is that, an executive of a company is going to want to pull up the dashboard on their mobile phone. You know what I mean? So the AI, I don't think quite yet really understands cognitive load for the human brain when it comes to data. You know what I mean? There was something I learned I think a few months ago where it was like the 3-second rule, 30-second rule, and 300-second rule, where somebody should look at the dashboard or report and within 3 seconds understand the basic idea, 30 seconds be able to collect data from that, and then in 300 seconds be able to answer a business related question. So, you know, in my experience with AI, I think it's going to definitely evolve in terms of DAX, data modeling, visualizations, especially because AI is only going to learn with human input, you know what I mean, over and over. And 2026, I think, is going to be a huge year for Microsoft. As you know, Sean, I was at the Power Platform Conference 2025, and there was a lot of exciting stuff we saw that was new with Copilot. So I think it's only going to evolve more right now. It may not 100% understand human intuition or the cognitive load like what I was talking about, but it's definitely going to get better. I think in regards of us though, as Power BI developers and trying to speak the business and data analytics language, I think definitely a new core skill that's going to evolve is giving AI very thorough prompts. For example, we can't just tell AI this sales measure with DAX. You know what I mean? We have to be very specific. A year over year sales growth percentage measure that uses our fiscal year calendar and starting with July 1st, excluding returns and handles division by zero gradually, those types of things. We're going to have to be very narrow and keep teaching AI these types of things. But I think over time, it's going to get a lot better. You know what I mean? Specifically with the world of data modeling, especially. I struggle to seem to utilize AI to help me with relationships right now, but it's definitely been able to take away a lot of the grunt work, like basic DAX and things like that. So I can use my brain to think the critical thinking aspect of things. You know what I mean? I can use all the energy I have in my brain every day to solve the business question. What story do I want to tell with the data? I get to use the critical thinking aspect of my brain.
Yeah,
Sean,
there's a lot to unpack there.
I love her.
Absolutely.
I told you. I told you. I knew it.
Oh, thank
I am
you.
a
Love her.
matchmaker. Okay,
My
I
gosh.
knew it. I know. I could see your mind was just like, There's so much
I
there.
started
There's so
tearing
much there.
up. I was so proud. Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Oh, thank you,
I know it.
Belinda. Wow,
I
that
know.
means a lot to me. Like I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I've always looked up to you, Belinda. I've been eager to meet you. So thank you so much for your feedback. That means a lot.
Yeah, seriously. I was starting to cry. I was like, I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh, that is just that makes me.
I'm trying my hardest, you know. I mean, like, for me, it's different. I feel like jumping into this world, especially since all the people I talk to every day on these things know so much more than me. You know what I mean? But naturally, because they follow the timeline of Power BI longer. So for me, it's I have to also kind of understand Power BI's background, plus keeping up with the everything that's coming out right now. You know what I mean?
Jill, I only know a couple people who don't feel that way. And the ones that don't feel that way probably should. So
Wow.
it's ongoing. Everybody feels that way. Everybody feels like they're not, that it's hard to keep up. Everyone feels that way. And so, but people like us find that exciting. It's like there's always something fun to learn. And I wanted to ask you, based on as you was talking about some of that, have you played with any data sets that you thought were really fun and made you go, wow, I didn't know that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I either I'll build a data set myself, like a sample data set to experiment with, which sometimes can be, you know, amazing, sometimes a nightmare, but it's gotten a lot easier definitely the more I've practiced. Or I'll take sample data sets from online, but I must say, whenever I find a messy sample data set, I grab it and I get my hands dirty because that's where I find all the new tools. For example, I didn't know the Key Insights AI tool was a thing until recently, actually. And I didn't realize that was a thing that came out like a year ago. You know what I mean? A year ago, I was using the Q&A feature that I got really excited about when I found out that came out. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. You know what I mean? I can ask AI to questions, and this is so cool for both the user end and the developer end. You know what I mean? But I think the Key Insights tool is the one I'm experimenting the most right now. But each time I have a messy data set I get to work with, it always teaches me something new and also opens up where are my weaknesses. You know what I mean? I get to see where my weaknesses are when I get my hands dirty in the sandbox of like, this is a mess. Let's go play. You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
yeah, that's definitely helped me in my studies a lot.
I do. I totally get that. Yay.
I loved that 3-second, 30-second thing because I think you're right. I see so many times that someone will go develop these reports and release them out to the leadership team or the operations team, and it's all this data, these cool little features, but nobody know like what does this mean? I'm looking at this and I'm
Mhm.
spending 30 minutes trying to figure out like what's the story? What story are you trying to tell me? And if you can't see that straight away, then there's an issue, right? Because you don't want people to have to sit and go through and try to figure out what the story you're trying to tell them.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, you know, when you give these reports or dashboards to executives, the very first question they're going to ask is what's the summary? You know what I mean? That's the first thing they're going to be asking because they're on a time limit to make a business decision and also handing off their data to somebody who's going to manage it can be nerve-wracking sometimes because it could turn into either a really good investment or it could turn into a huge expensive disaster sometimes, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it when people are talking to potential contractors or other people who they could hire on as like their data analyst, a lot of nerves are brought into the conversation as well. They want to make sure that you know what you're doing and that they can get data and insights pretty quickly. You know what I mean? They want to be able to move on with their day and be able to make these big decisions to grow their business. So it's one thing I think that we should all be keeping in mind. And that's what's been helping me studying more of the business side of things. Because when I was studying the tech side, I was like, I know how to do all these things, but boy, if I don't know the business side, I don't know how to complete a story. You know what I mean? I don't. So because I have to get data to everybody and like on a dashboard or report as soon as possible and be able to make it easy for them to digest and know what's going on with our numbers. You know what I mean?
Data storytelling is so important. And I see some people I always joke, and I'm serious about it though, but my reports, my babies are ugly.
Yeah.
I just don't possess that artistic skill to make them, but they're valuable. They've got good information on it. That's right. It's like the pretty aspect I do not underestimate the importance of that. But I see some people just like throw as many visuals on a page as possible. And I'm like, stop. I mean, if one visual tells the story for what you need to know, then only have one visual on a page. That's okay. I mean, the world is not going to come to end if you just have one visual on a page. I mean, typically you want to have more than that so you could see some actions and evaluate, do some more of the analysis, but don't have 100 visuals just because you can put 100 visuals on the page. I mean, you're going to end up with uh, uh, a worse performance, and you're just going to overload. You're creating so much noise on the page, nobody's going to be able to tell what's going on.
Absolutely.
So I'm proud
I
of
think
your
it's
word
also
story too, because that I'm like, yay.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's also important not just, what like how many visuals can get the job done with this question. I think it's also what types of visuals are you going to use? Because I'm not going to pick three different, very like you have to kind of look at it and analyze type of visuals and then throw in a geography map. You know what I mean? That's just going to make everything so distracting and make the eyes want to go everywhere and be like, wait, I forgot what this showed over here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I think that your choice of visuals are also a huge thing that come into play as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I think in AI, it can help you kind of build some dashboards and give you some ideas, but I think you're right. If you don't know the audience and don't have that human intervention of like, okay, this looks better together, this is a better story, then, it's just AI is just producing a dashboard. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things that I frequently scream from any soapbox I could find, um, when we're building reports and we're building data models to build reports, and when we're building reports, we're building for the end users. So they need to be laid out in a way that's easy for the end users to digest at whatever skill set are, at whatever experience in analytics they possess. So that is huge, huge. I can't stand it when
Mhm.
someone doesn't change column names at all, and, they still have, one of the things of BC that makes me crazy.
She's gonna pick on big
BC,
BC.
yeah. So, like,
She's gonna
eh,
pick on big
every
BC. Here
every
we go.
master table there, the primary key or um they call it no for number. And it just makes me crazy because it's, that's all. So that, if that same field is in another table, then it can't be called no because something else is no now in there. So it just makes me scream no. But so that's the pick on there. So we don't want it to be left no. We want to change it to customer number or customer ID or item ID or whatever the case may be. We want to be able to tell that because that way the end users know exactly what it is you're talking about. So it's critical that we do that. Just as critical as
Mhm.
taking a binary field and turning it to yes or no or true or false. Don't leave it 0 1.
Yeah, Belinda has a lot of tips and tricks that she's taught and done throughout the years.
That was his kind way of saying
Mm.
she's very particular about him and she will jump up and down.
I still sometimes I'm sleeping at night and I'm like, embrace the space,
You could put the spaces back
embrace
in
the space.
fabric now, but believe it or not, I have done a lot of research. I've talked with a lot of different people, my Saturday study group, other MVPs, a lot of members of the development team where I work at iLink Digital. And I have finally come around to using an underscore instead of a space. Believe it or not. I
Mm.
know. Yeah, it is progress. Yeah, for fabric, it's just a better fit. I mean, I'm okay with camel font, but I think about AI. AI can interpret the underscores as space much easier than trying to break up camel font. So,
It is kind of interesting how we've learned and these are like rules or things that we've followed throughout the years. And as things are changing, it makes me think, will we go back to before we were doing the spaces or back to before we were renaming the fields or, things like that, how things can change over, I don't want to say decades, but, years, couple years.
mhm.
Yeah, I have to say, Belinda, it's interesting you bring up that concept of, not necessarily renaming the tables or being specific enough with them or being way too vague, where it's kind of like the end user's like, what? I don't understand what 0 or 1 means. You know what I mean? I'm wanting to see what's true, what's false, what's yes or no. And it's interesting because I think formatting is something that's kind of underrated. It's not talked about as much, I think, at least the Power BI world, when at least I look around on resources online and have been studying in my own free time, it doesn't seem like something that pops up often enough.
And as we progress more and more into AI, that becomes more and more important because people are going to be using their own
Mm.
natural language and they're not going to ask questions like what no is in the cust mass table or is in table RM00101. They're not going to be talking to, where this field is 0. That's not how it's going to shake out. It's critical that we have that habit anyhow, and it just makes the reports readable. I mean, I don't care how beautiful your report is or what a great job you've done data modeling. If the end user can't use your report, it's worthless.
It's kind of, to me, then it sounds like it's just all that hard work for nothing then.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what it
so
sounds
you got
like.
to just make sure that you get it the way that the users, the specific people are going to be using it where they can follow along and interpret it. I worked with a partner one time and they're like, oh, but they're used to using those codes. And I'm like, yeah, maybe like these 5 people, but what happens when it gets to the CEO? Do you really think the CEO? I mean, come on. In all of my years, I started implementing ERP software in 1990, 19,
Ish.
and I was thinking 91, but I really think it was probably 1990. Anyhow, we'll say 91. I mean, that long ago, what's 1 year? It makes me a year younger, so that works out. All right. So, in 1991, um, in all those years, as a VAR, a value added reseller, all the way until about, I don't know, 8 years ago, I was implementing that. And then I still work a lot with ERP systems on a regular basis, even today. But, um, I can only recall one CFO that actually went into the accounting system. If, talking about just the ones where they had someone with the title CFO, one in all those years go into the accounting system. So that means only one could have potentially known. Now, there's a second one who I know of from quite a big nonprofit, but that's because she started when she was in college as an AP clerk, so she knew the software then. And she started about right before we became their partner, and now she's the CFO. I'm so proud of her too. And so Eileen, if you're listening, I love you, lady. But that's because she knows it. She was in it, but one. And so, yeah, if you have to write it for the end users or it's worthless. It's worthless.
Yeah. So, Belinda, I'm going to I just have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So, as you were going back and talking about the 90s, which, was just yesterday, I think, but what kind of keeps you engaged and learning and teaching? And you've had this passion. I know you've done different things throughout your career, but I think it's always been at the core of data, reporting, helping. But yeah, what do you lean to and keeps you passionate about everything?
And you're right. I've always leaned into reportings, whether it was financial statements, and we started pushing, in our company, my husband and I own the company. We pushed visual financial statements back in, like 92, 93. We've been at it a long time. Um, well, one, I love learning. I mean, my biggest hobby is learning, to the point where one of the gifts I asked for Christmas and got from my wonderful husband was a skill a week.
We love you, Richard.
Yeah. Yeah, he's out of the room right now, so he can give me a skill a week. So, like, I've gone through a soap making class and I've gone through different herbal classes. The one I'm going through right now, slowly through the week, is about making like homemade face cream with different herbs and stuff. So, it's I just have a passion for learning, always have. I would love to be back and start over in high school again because I'd be a completely different student because it's just like, and I've always said when I lived in New York City, since seniors can go to some colleges for free, I would be a perpetual college student when I retired. But it is the learning, and I find these times of AI uber exciting in what it can do. Almost every day, my husband and I are like, we meet up and we're like, okay, what did you do today? And I did this. And he's like, oh, I did this. And we're like, wow. And so we're floored with this on an ongoing basis. And a lot of you, I've told this story too, because we've had so many conferences recently at the MGM in Las Vegas. And we got married in Las Vegas after a Comdex show, a computer show that was at the MGM in 1992. So, I mean, we've been geeks forever. And so we still are. And it's fascinating the things that are out there now. And I always have my personal mission statement that I've had for years and years and years. I know more than 25 years at least, is to improve the lives and business success of my customers. And so I try to strive to do that every day. And I get huge personal rewards when that happens. And I particularly love my customers that make the world a better place because you know me, I'm super hokey. And so that's just an example of the kind of hokey that I am. But I take great, great pride in that. Though the Eileen that I gave a shout out to that I loved her, I mean, she works with an organization that helps train a specific kind of heart surgeon in a very specific method. And I feel like that, I'm a part of everyone that gets that kind of heart procedure, which is a regular now because of the early days where I was involved helping make him bigger and better and helping him get through certain things. And, I felt I just take pride as being, you hear me, you've heard this a lot, Sean, when I'm working with a customer, I don't talk about them. It's always we. And, oh, this is how we do it. This is what we do. This is, and if I even use the I and mine, and when I'm talking about them as if I work there. So that's just part of my personality. I know some people like that, and some people are like, "You're a weirdo," but that's okay. I'm wonderfully weird, so it's okay with me. So I embrace that title, but it's all the new stuff that's coming out. I mean, we have been I say we, my husband and I have been fascinated by technology for years. I mean, I still every now and then look at my watch and think, wow, this is more powerful than my first computer. It, could hold more data. My first computer had two 5.25-inch floppy drives, one for the software, one for the data. And my watch is more powerful now. And stuff like that just gets me very excited.
Right. And so, Jill, I have a couple of questions for you. So, as someone you're still learning in school, what do you think gives you an edge on learning all this?
The fact that I'm right in this stage where Microsoft and everybody else is trying to figure out this whole new AI thing, this boom that's happening, I don't have to unlearn old habits, which is something I definitely, I definitely take that for granted. You know what I mean? Because I jumped in right when the AI boom was happening with Microsoft and Copilot, and now it can be integrated with things like Power BI and the rest of the Power Platform, and even Business Central. You know what I mean? So the fact that I get to develop modern habits along with the growth of this is such a huge advantage in my favor. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest advantage that I have right now. So I'm excited to see where all this goes. And at the end of the day, kind of like what we've been talking about, we're all on the same kind of journey, no matter where we started. We're trying to keep up with what's new and up to date. And gosh, I think what also gives me advantage though is people like you, Sean, and Belinda. I get so many people who've already been so experienced with this stuff as my connections, and that's such a big advantage. So I definitely think reaching out into the community for help has been also a huge favor for me, especially because Power BI has gotten more popular. So it's easier to find people who are using it right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
And
also
it kinda
possess
goes in.
oh, sorry, Sean. You also major skill that a lot of people that not near enough people have, and I can already it's already been in your answers over and over again, and that you embrace change, and so you don't run from it, and that is huge, especially in times like right now. Like, it's huge, and that's going to take you amazing places, the ability to embrace change.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know like everything that I know this week could be completely different the next week, and I'm just gonna have to like roll along with it. I think at first it made me really nervous, but I am grateful that, I've been with a family who's also we've had a ton of change in our life in good ways, lots of good ways. I've had a life where my mom was actually she was a home flipper. So there was lots of moving and helping out with things like that. So it was always a what's newest in style type of thing that we can bring in to change these homes and things like that. And I was on top of helping her out with those things along with my family. So change has been kind of almost like a second language to me. So it's almost really easy for me to lean into it. But I think the one skill that I've kind of learned recently is the discipline to keep asking questions to people, keep asking questions. You know what I mean? Not just to people like you, but in the future, when I have my own clients, my own customers, ask questions, so many questions the first time you meet with them because they're going to hold back information. Not that they want to, not that they're trying to, but you want to make sure you ask all the questions and have the discipline to ask them questions and then ask them, do you have any questions for me? You know what I mean? Because you want all the data points. Because let's say I was trying to build this dashboard for, a company in Canada, and then all of a sudden I'm on a meeting and I present it and they're like, but why isn't there any French translation? We have some people that speak French. You know what I mean? So you want to make sure you're asking all the questions and getting all the details. So that's also been something I've been learning to adapt along with also the keeping up to date with like just flowing with the change and evolve along with it. So it's also what I've been working on.
Cool.
I do love that. So you kinda touched a little bit on some of this, but I want you to what advice would you give another student who wants to get into Power BI?
Man, take advantage of the sources we have right now. I found y'all at the Power Platform conference with you, Sean. I meet Belinda now right here. There are so many forums out there now. Reddit, I see that there's a Power BI forum you can go on to and you can publish your reports and dashboards and you can get some constructive criticism from there. People will post all the time on new articles and things like that. They're coming up to date with Power BI. And in your free time, I mean, read up on there are some literatures that I think that are definitely not outdated at all. There's the star schema one, which I actually found really helpful for me to understand also not just data modeling, but also it goes into a lot of like operations management and things like this. This is from Christopher Adamson, but this is one thing that I love taking advantage of. Are we twinning? Yay,
I'm
Belinda.
not gonna get my book out because 'cause you'll see my butt, but yeah, I got that one too.
But also, the biggest thing though is don't be afraid to experiment. You're in a sandbox environment. You're not going to break anything. You're not going to mess anything up. And, don't be too hard on yourself if you missed one thing or another. When I first started with Power BI, I would hyper fixate in some areas and then I'd realize I have weaknesses in other areas. But you see your weaknesses when it goes into building your reports and things like that and dashboards. I would definitely say take sample data that a lot of like real businesses would use for certain concepts. You know what I mean? If it's accounting data and they want to see, the gross profit and everything at the end of the year, where's revenue coming from? Where's expenses coming from? If you're doing like, manufacturing company, they're typically their customers are other businesses and their vendors are other businesses as well. So it's like, I think a lot of it is get your hands dirty and experiment and take real data if you can and see what happens. Because honestly, for me, I found out a lot of tools I didn't know of, and using sources like Reddit, I got so much good feedback on, my own reports and dashboards and people like you, so I can get some constructive criticism. So reach out, find people, and there's a lot of groups out there right now, just like the WPP, the Weekend Power platform, which I think is the best space for me in terms of my growth has been the WPP, and I'm so excited to see where things go for 2026. Yeah, those are the big points I have to say.
Thank you. So, Belinda, you want to talk a little bit about, community, because I know you've invested a lot in the community, and
Hmm.
the Power BI community really has a lot to thank for you just
Oh,
personally, a lot of articles and blogs and conferences and stuff. But yeah, some areas in the community you think would be good to point our listeners to?
I'll definitely point that out. But two quick comments. Yep. Bravo, my friend. You can see how much I use this book. I was able to get my hands on it that fast. We knew you were going to pull that one out. So did Sean. And so we were like, oh, it's coming. It's coming. And then the other
It's
thing,
coming.
if you're going to post something on Reddit, be willing to have a little bit of a thick skin. Some people they're not as gentle with their words. Think for them, here comes Mary Sunshine. I think for the most part they're well intended, but they're not always kind. And the wonderful Alex Powers from Microsoft does try to police that. But okay. So yeah, I've been working in the community space. Actually, I started out with one of the Dynamics products, one that is being sundowned, GP, that was back in 90, I was talking about. And so Microsoft bought them in 2001. And I was heavily invested in the community before Microsoft bought them. So I've been heavily invested in the Microsoft community since 2001. And I do have to say, there are a lot of wonderful groups. A couple of them that I'm a part of. Of course, I'm a part of the Power BI community, strongly invested in that. But I also am one of 5 leaders for Power BI Women's Group. We can be found on Meetup. It is a group. We have quite a number of women that is just for people who identify as women solely. I'm one of those people, and I think it comes back from my age. So many times, and every now and then, unfortunately, I'm still the only woman in the room. Men in the room. I'm like, I don't care if men join, but one time I was doing a training class for them, and someone with a very meek voice said, "Can I show you something?" And what she showed me, and she said, because this is a safe space. And everyone was like, yeah. And it knocked our socks off. It was amazing. And with that meek voice and using the phrase, because this is a safe space, I knew she would have never shown that if men were in the room. So I'm like, okay, we definitely need a space for that. So forgive me for being a little political here. The tech field still is heavy on the straight white and Asian male side. So, we have a long way to go with that. So we just need to try to make the road a little easier for our sisters that come behind us. Okay. So enough politics on diversity, but groups like that, find your group, find your people, find local groups, search Meetup. There's a lot of Meetup sessions that are done remotely that are quite amazing. There's big user groups that you can attend conferences for. There's a Dynamics communities. There's Dynamics user group. Those are 2 big ones that offer a strong Power Platform, Power BI presence in each one of those. And then there's others too. Past Professional Association of SQL Server. I'm heavily involved in their SQL Saturday, which is just starting to be renamed to Data something. But I present at a SQL Saturday live, and those are free except for lunch. I present unless you do a pre-con, and then they're cheap. Like for a whole day, it's usually like $150, $170. It's crazy, crazy cheap. And I probably do about 6 of those a year, traveling around. And so my next one will be in Atlanta after the FabCon. So there's also the Fabric Conference and the Power Platform Conference, which isn't a Microsoft event. They actually get a group to do it, but it's predominantly Microsoft. And then there's SQL Bits over in Europe, which is really big. Those are all some really amazing groups. I'm also part of like Sean's weekend group. I'm part of a Saturday morning learning group for Power BI. We welcome anyone who wants to come, but we only want regulars who come more often than not. So we do have a bar that you have to meet, and that is, you have to find one of us to get an invitation. You'll get invited for a month or 2, and by then you'll know, are you going to be someone who shows up regularly or not? And then you get on the big invite list. So you have to be kind of like brought in by someone. But we are an incredibly close group. We have probably on the official member list about 200 people, but we have about 20 to 30 that show up every Saturday morning for each other. We test sessions out on each other. Practice like February 18th for Microsoft, I'll be doing the new chat with your data in a day free workshops that start in the month of February. So they're going to be my guinea pigs on that and tell me what they don't like the way I'm saying and what they like the way I'm saying. We're so close that, you know, we do that now. We have official unofficial jobs in our little fake company. So like I'm mom from the mom and dad. Then there's the owner of the group. And then we have an apparel manager and then a webmaster. So we just, those are fake titles, by the way, but we officially call each other that. We even have a guy who lives in a van down by the river. I kid you not. So, this is our group. So finding your own study group like that.
And I would love for you to, come to the Weekend Power platform. We did take this group, it's based on that Saturday morning for sure. We meet a little bit different time, but it's the same kind of concept. And I would welcome you and anybody on a Saturday morning that wants to join us one weekend and do that. That'll be good. Well,
Our
I want to
time is because it's the hour before the guy in the cube, so we all just stay on when they have a live show, and that's why. So if you ever see hashtag SML, that's who we are. Saturday morning
Got you.
live.
And Belinda, I want to thank you actually for emphasizing the importance of not just finding a group who's very technical on all this stuff, but a group that's also a safe space. Because, like you said, it's so easy to run into people who will tear you down. And I also think, especially for people who are newer into this, that can lead to a lot of self confidence being depleted and the whole, like, what's the point then type of questioning happening. I'm never going to be good at this type of stuff. So I just want to say thank you for mentioning that part because also, I think when you get the bonus of a community that knows what they're doing and even a community that is asking all the questions of we don't know what's going on, that's fine too. You know what I mean? We're all growing. We're all in the same boat. But a community where it's a safe space for you to show off your projects and things like that, I think that's so important to emphasize because that's where the growth happens. You're going to listen to them. You know what I mean? That's also the best part is it's going to be easier to not just listen to people, but a lot of times you'll get even better feedback that way. You know what I mean? Because then you're encouraged to ask more questions and things like that. People who get really harsh, kind of like what you said in Reddit, that can happen often with the Power BI forum, which is true. Things like that, where that can be a really harsh space for some people.
Well,
It's just going to be so difficult to also ask questions or feel like that you didn't actually do something wrong. That can be really hard for so many people. So I appreciate you mentioning that because I also think it'll bring in a lot more new innovative ideas when we have a community that's all about what are you about? What are we about? What's all our goals? You know what I mean? That's going to bring a lot more creative thinking into play as well.
thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think you kinda have to find your people or your group, and we were at Power Platform, and Microsoft said something. We were talking about Copilot and all this new age of all this stuff, and they're like, "We're in a messy it's messy." And it's like, it's right, it's just messy right now.
It
So
is messy.
it's a great time to just
Hmm.
get in, dive in, and get with a group and learn together and just, you know, figure it out.
Yeah, it's and all of AI is super messy now. It's very human right now. And so we need to rely on other people as well because one of the things we have found in our group is everyone has what I've always used this phrase pocket of power, but everyone has their pocket of power and we know we can rely on each other like that. Just recently I was wanting information on who I should follow and learn from to get deeper into data science. And I knew, oh, I know who I need to ask. I need to ask Donald from my SML team. And so, and this is the group of things that we do. And just this morning, from a Fabric for Friday, those are all people in my like, there I go again. It's my group. I'm just not my group, but yeah. And one of them, the dad
Sure.
from my
Belinda.
yeah, it's my tribe, definitely my tribe. So one of them, Kevin, was like, "Oh, I did what Belinda does, and I did this," and so and they were laughing at it because I always use AI. I'm like, give me an example like I'm 5 years old. And that's what I wanna see, and so he had to make a whole slide deck, and it was all primary colors with blocks, and I actually it was about Get, how to use Get, as you're doing development, and I liked it, and, I liked what he said, and then later on in the chat, I can actually ping in and interrupt him live, and I did, and I'm like, "Don't pick on me," and, I love that, and later on, they were talking and they said something. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's removing the child lock on the toy box from GitHub." And they're like, "Yeah, exactly." And I'm like, "Yeah." So that, we all have different ways that we learn. We all need people because honestly, it was only about 3 years ago that I finally got the courage up to ask, what's the difference between an implicit and explicit measure? Only for me to find out I was already doing explicit measures all along and I never did implicit measures. And I was doing it right. I just didn't know it. And I knew all the reasons why. And when I would train, I would tell people that I just didn't know to say, this is explicit. And if you do it this way, it's implicit. And you don't want to do implicit. You want to do it explicitly. I would just say, hey, you got to do it this way. And this is why. And so, you just need a safe space.
You're just always learning. All right. So it's time for our signature segment, the Weekend Power Platform Challenge. And I believe, Jill, you have something that you can challenge our Weekend Power Platform team with?
Well, I'm appreciative that we had this real big discussion because this actually all completely changed the challenge I wanted to give out.
I love it.
Well, yeah, I
It's
was
on real,
going to
this is
tell
real
people
time,
to
no prep, no prep.
anyways, my challenge that I want to offer to everybody, especially since AI is something that's newer, it's changing, it's definitely going to be different by the end of 2026 as well. I'm sure we all know that, is definitely pull up either a report or dashboard you already have. If you don't, you can find some really good sample data on Microsoft. I think it's Microsoft Learn you can find it on. There's also some other places you can grab some sample data on. So I would say load in some sample data, build some very simple visuals, and utilize AI to either help you with your visualization or your DAX measures. Something really simple that can take just 30 minutes, and then take note of, what do you think AI did pretty well? What do you think AI needs to improve on? Because I think that when we get insight on like where we think AI kind of needs to be improved upon, a lot of it's going to be from the experimentation and just getting creative. So I think that's going to be a big one. So grab your data, grab your Power BI desktop, Power BI service if you use the web application, but I like the desktop, and then plug in your data and then start asking AI to help you with some things, whether it's visualization, data modeling, DAX, and take note of what AI did good on and what AI kind of didn't do as well on. So that's what I would say.
I do too. We were having an internal meeting and it got me thinking. I always bring everything back to that. I like to explain things like I'm 5 years old personally, because that's how I like to
Hmm.
interpret it. And I don't give myself enough credit for my technical prowess, but I always say, oh, it's like I'm more business talking to business people than using technical jargon. I obviously made that clear with the implicit explicit thing, but I mean, if AI is for AI to work, you have to have three things. You have to have the tool to work, like Copilot. You have to have data that's modeled properly, and you have to have a good prompt. So we need to explore more with our prompts and with our data because that's the only way we're going to get our tools the way we want them.
That. Oh my God, this has been an incredible conversation. I have a feeling that we could probably just do a whole day workshop and just talk. And I'm open to this idea of this workshop, the two of you, because I think it would be amazing. I think the listeners and there would be a lot of interest in this. So let's think about doing a workshop one of these days.
Summit.
I think that's
Dynamic Summit
exciting.
is looking for the academy leaders or academy trainers for October right now. I think it's way early because how are we going to write down what we want to talk about in AI? Because we're going to be doing whatever comes out in, let's see, for October, we're going to be doing what comes out in August for AI then. So how can we
Hmm.
write it up in January? Have one
So
bullet and
true.
whatever cool is new between now and then.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna have to just update, 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 update. Just keep on top of it. You know what I mean? We need some kind of small notes section. We can just plug in new information that just takes like a minute, 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Because new stuff changes all the time. You're right.
And
True,
Sean,
yeah, you have a point.
one final, I love Jill.
Thank you, Belinda. Well, I think we should get in contact, Belinda, because your Saturday group sounds really intriguing to me. And I know you're in the Power BI group as well. And that's something I'm wanting to get invested in. So we'll get on top of that. And I'm sure we'll have some more conversations, Belinda. So
You just have to
thank you. It's been
promise me
wonderful
one
meeting you.
thing to get you invited to Saturday. I will invite you this Saturday. I want you to hold up this book and when you come and say, you've learned a lot from this book. And I'll tell you, yeah, it doesn't even matter. I don't have to tell you there. Oh, see, look, that's my RBG, a bookmark coming out of it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow,
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you both for bringing your stories and your wisdom, and this has been like an amazing, amazing session, and I want to do this again. So anytime, you guys are both welcome to come back. We can talk about all kinds of
we
cool
have
stuff.
so much more AI to talk about.
I know.
There's
I
so
didn't
much.
even get to all my questions. You know, I had questions here, didn't get to them, but the
Because
conversation
and
was,
and data science,
I know.
tons of data
Yes.
science.
Absolutely. Oh man, next week we're gonna be emailing you, Sean, like, Sean, we just came up with all these other things we didn't talk about.
I know. So you guys put the plan together. I'll get us all together, and we'll just do a little series on all kinds of stuff. And I 100% love it. So
I
to
would have
everyone
such a ball.
listening, this is great.
I had a
I would
great
have such
time.
a ball doing it.
Yeah.
I would have such a good time. Belinda, that's on my homework assignment. I'll hold this up with my chest high and I'll say loud and proud, I learned a lot from this book right here. Just this book, all these pages. I learned so much. And it's funny. I've been rereading this as well, actually, right now, because when I did my first read through of it, like I told you, I was in the technical background, but when I saw all the operations management terminology, manufacturing terminology, accounting terminology, I'm like, what is all this? I have no idea. And now it's like processing through me way easier. I'm like, oh, I understand this now because I've been studying it and practicing it. Yeah. So now it's been a completely different time rereading through it a second time. Plus, I also found some details I didn't even notice the first time I read. So, been marking up in the book a lot more new things in there.
Cool. Yeah, and one of our fake titles is for our wonderful and brilliant and just all around lovely SMLer, Donald Parrish from Nebraska. And we call him the historian or the librarian, whichever you want to call. He just loves all things Star Schema, all things Ralph Kimball, and oh, he's going to get me because he always adds, because how terrible of me, I can't remember his Ralph Kimball's partner's name, Marjorie. He's yelling at me right now. I've got to stop and think about that. But anyhow, yeah. Sorry, Donald.
When he listens to the podcast, he's going to be like, Belinda.
Belinda, shame on you. Shame.
You guys, thank you. And as always, let's keep building, experimenting, learning, and transforming everything. Power Platform, AI, Power BI, Copilot, just everything is exciting. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks. And if I could just have
Thank
a ask
you.
from everybody who watches, the next time you're at an event and you see someone who is in the minority in the room, no matter what that means, just make a point to say something nice to them, either have a conversation or at least just say hi or, oh, it's cold outside or whatever is appropriate so that they feel welcomed. That's all you have to do. That's it. You may
I love that.
You may just end up making somebody's day. You make it easier for the people in the room. I mean, to come back.
I love that. I really love that.
Thanks.
And that's how we grow this community
Yeah.
and
I
we're
Mhm.
didn't
looking
do
out
it.
for each
I
other.
didn't do it in the beginning and I feel really bad because I'm, my dad just kind of raised me to, be an army of one. And, and I shouldn't have used the term army because he was a career Marine. So be a battalion of one. There you go.
There you go.
And
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, so, but I wish I had of. I wish I would have made it easier for all of the other diversities that come behind me, because one of the things that seems to be true, this is not necessarily true if you're trying to get like a C-level position in tech, but in tech, when you prove you know what you're talking about, others will respect you. End of story. As a rule, I've seen that so much more than I've seen anything else. At a time where we need to support each other and have more peace, that's important. Okay, enough. I'm off the pedestal.
Absolutely.
Thank
No,
you
Belinda,
both.
I think everything you said, that's absolutely brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. And it's like, make conversation, whether it's about Power BI or Power Platform or nothing related to that. You know what I mean? It matters when we're social human beings. We're not meant to be solitary in this journey called life. We're meant to be together. You know what I mean? So I think that's so great that you emphasized that. So thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, for having me. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
No,
Sean.
this is great. I'm excited. Thank you both.
Thank you.